If you've ever been dismissed by the very people who are supposed to protect your neighborhood when you needed understanding most, you're going to love what happened next. My name is Maya Ellis, and for 3 brutal years, the entire Willow Creek Estates HOA told every single neighbor I was faking my chronic pain just to dodge the rules and get special treatment. What they didn't know while Karen Blakely and her board were laughing behind my back was that I had quietly turned that same pain into a $73 million medical device empire. The chief of neurology, who had been treating me the whole time, was sitting 3 lawn chairs away at the annual summer block party. Microphone clipped to his tie, recording every word. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Picture this. A picture-perfect suburban slice of Illinois heaven, rolling lawns mowed to exactly 3 inches, white picket fences gleaming, and every house painted in one of 3 approved neutral colors. Welcome to Willow Creek Estates, where the HOA covenant is thicker than the Bible and twice as judgmental. I moved here 3 years ago at 28. Fresh off an MIT engineering degree and a senior role at a Boston medtech firm. I thought the quiet streets and community pool would be perfect while I figured out why my body was suddenly betraying me. First came the crushing fatigue, then the stabbing joint pain that made stairs feel like climbing Everest, then the brain fog so thick I once forgot my own address mid-conversation. 6 months. Dozens of specialists, and finally the diagnosis from Dr. Marcus Rivera himself, fibromyalgia layered with early-onset degenerative disc disease and a rare autoimmune mess. Chronic, incurable, invisible. I called the HOA office from the neurologist's parking lot, voice still shaking. Karen Blakely answered in that syrupy, "I'm doing this for the community" voice. "Oh, Maya, honey, we all get a little achy after a long day. Have you tried yoga? The covenant strictly prohibits any visible medical equipment on the exterior, but I'm sure we can work something out if you're really struggling." That should have been my warning. Within 2 months, the narrative had flipped from new neighbor Maya to that dramatic Ellis girl who's milking the system. I look fine on good days. I could walk without the cane sometimes, so clearly I was lazy, manipulative, and pathetic. Karen led the charge like a general. At the monthly board meetings, she'd do exaggerated limps across the community center stage. "Oh dear, I simply can't enforce the trash can rule today. My fibromyalgia is flaring." The room would erupt in polite golf clap laughter, including her husband David, the board treasurer and hospital administrator at Northwestern, their son Justin, who handled compliance patrols, and daughter Melissa, who ran the Facebook group. Even Aunt Sarah, the retired nurse on the architectural review committee, chimed in. "Back in my day, we pushed through pain. This generation wants a medal for breathing." They started small, but escalated fast. I requested a simple concrete ramp for my front door, ADA reasonable accommodation. Denied. It would ruin the aesthetic uniformity, Karen wrote in the official rejection letter. CCNG the entire block. I asked for a designated handicap spot near the pool for aqua therapy. Denied. Everyone wants special parking these days. When my pain flared so badly, I couldn't mow my lawn to the sacred 3-inch standard. Justin showed up with a ruler and a fine notice taped to my door. $300. Rules are rules. Maya, maybe you need to exercise more instead of sitting around. The worst part? They began interfering with my actual care. I was still on my old employer's insurance, transitioning to individual coverage. David, using his hospital connections, quietly flagged my claims for review. 2 specialist appointments vanished. When I asked him at a neighborhood barbecue, he smiled that same fake polite smile. "We can't be enabling every little complaint." Maya, tough love builds character. Melissa started posting in the private HOA chat screenshots of me smiling at the mailbox on a good day captioned, "Look who's suddenly cured when suits her." The comments poured in, Classic victim mentality. She's just after lower fees. I stopped fighting them publicly. I smiled, nodded, paid the fines, and went inside. What they didn't know was that during those brief windows between flares when my brain cleared, I was still working. From my living room desk, I freelanced as a medical device consultant, leveraging every painful hour I'd spent testing existing junk on the market. Tens units that shocked randomly. Clunky stimulators requiring surgery. Nothing discreet or actually effective for people like me. So I designed NeuroPulse, a sleek wearable band that looked like a fitness tracker but delivered targeted tens. Heat therapy, and real-time nerve feedback. I tested it on myself first, tweaking through tears of pain and triumph. Then Dr. Rivera quietly looped me into a small trial at Northwestern. 83% of participants reported life-changing relief. 91% ditched their old devices. I poured every spare cent into prototypes. I kept the CEO title under my middle name, Maya Lee, so Google wouldn't connect the dots. Board meetings via Zoom, schedule built around flares, and zero mention to the neighborhood. Meanwhile, Karen's fines kept coming. Christmas lights the wrong shade of warm white. One political sticker on my car. Grass half an inch too long on a bad pain week. Each time she'd post photos in the group chat with captions like some residents think rules don't apply to them. The dark humor of it all was almost poetic. The woman obsessed with perfect lawns couldn't see the perfect storm she was watering. I documented everything, every denial email, every fine receipt, every recorded phone call where Karen cheerfully explained why my pain wasn't their problem. Dr. Rivera kept his own file too. You might need this someday, he told me once, patting the folder. People don't believe in visible illness until the proof is undeniable. Little did the HOA know that folder was about to become their worst nightmare. 18 months into the silent war, I had stopped telling the neighborhood anything real about my life. I smiled at block parties, paid every petty fine, and let Karen's little empire believe they had broken me. Inside my accessible condo, paid for with the first round of seed money I never mentioned, I was building something they could never find a way. Venture capital came knocking after the trial results leaked through Dr. Rivera's quiet network. FDA approval in record time. Distribution deals with hospitals, including, ironically, Northwestern, where David Blakely still strutted the halls like he owned the place. NeuroPulse medical devices hit $73 million valuation. I hired 12 people, most of them chronic pain warriors themselves. Forbes 30 Under 30 called. I spoke at conferences via pre-recorded video, so no one would recognize my voice. And still, to Willow Creek, I was just the girl with the cane who couldn't keep her grass short. The satire wrote itself. Karen once showed up at my door with a measuring tape and a camera crew from the local HOA newsletter. Smile, Maya. We're doing a feature on residents who struggle with compliance. I smiled through the flare that had me vomiting earlier that morning and said, absolutely, Karen. Wouldn't want to ruin the aesthetic. Later that week, the newsletter ran the photo with the caption, Maya Ellis demonstrates proper cane technique while ignoring covenant standards. Neighbors laughed. I laughed too. Inside, because every mocking post, every fine, every dismissive text was another page in the file Dr. Rivera and my lawyer Jennifer Park were building. Jennifer had been warning me for months. These aren't just rude neighbors. Maya, denying reasonable accommodations under ADA is federal. Harassing you while knowing your diagnosis? That's hostile environment. And the way David blocked your insurance claims using hospital leverage? That's fraud. She had 47 documented instances. Texts where Karen admitted throwing away my printed medical notes during a wellness check she claimed was for fire safety. Emails where David bragged about slow walking my claims. Melissa's TikTok drafts calling me the HOA welfare queen. All saved. all time-stamped. I still attended the mandatory meetings. Cane in hand, voice steady. Karen would open every session with her favorite line, "We're all family here at Willow Creek. We look out for each other." Then she'd glance at me and add, "Some of us just need to look out for ourselves a little less." The room would chuckle. I would nod politely and take notes that later became court exhibits. Meanwhile, my company grew. We launched in 300 hospitals. My annual income hit 7 figures. I paid off every medical debt, bought the condo outright with wide doorways and a walk-in tub, and got real health insurance that actually covered my treatments. And I told the HOA nothing. I needed to know, would they still hate me if I had nothing to gain from them? Would they believe my pain once I no longer needed their sympathy? I already knew the answer. I just wanted them to prove it on camera. Dr. Rivera had moved into the neighborhood 2 years earlier, quietly, without fanfare. Karen loved bragging that our very own chief neurologist lived on Maple Lane. She had no clue he was my doctor. Patient privacy, he reminded me with a wink during one of our secret porch-side check-ins. If they ever publicly attack your condition again, I have permission to intervene. Illinois is single-party consent. I'll be recording. Jennifer parked her strategy too. The second they humiliate you in public while still interfering with your care, we have criminal grounds, medical neglect of a disabled adult, fraud, defamation. Say the word, and Officer Martinez from the Elder Abuse Unit is on standby. I gave both of them the green light 2 weeks before the annual summer block party, the biggest event of the year, hosted right in Karen's McMansion backyard. 70 families, cater barbecue, the whole HOA board on stage like royalty. The invitation email from Karen carried the usual passive-aggressive footnote. We expect everyone to participate fully. No drama. No canes if possible. And please remember, this is a celebration of community, not individual complaints. I almost declined. Then Dr. Rivera showed me the updated file, 37 fresh instances of interference since my last flare. They're not just rude, Maya. They're dangerous. Fibromyalgia patients die from lack of support and suicide risk. You're still alive because you're stronger than they'll ever understand. So I went. Simple sundress. Came because my hip was screaming after the night before. I parked in a regular lot, no special treatment, and limped toward the crowd. Karen spotted me immediately, that plastic smile tightening. Maya, so glad you could join us. Try not to make this about you. Dear, I smiled back. Wouldn't dream of it. Karen, the party started pleasant enough. Neighbors chatted. Kids ran. I stayed near the shaded corner with good back support, sipping water, watching. Dr. Rivera arrived with his wife, positioned himself within perfect audio range. Tie clip mic glowing faintly in the sun. Jennifer was 3 blocks away with Officer Martinez and a folder thick enough to choke a lawsuit. Then Justin spotted me. Oh look, everybody. Maya brought her favorite accessory. He did the limp again, louder this time. 20 heads turned. Melissa pulled out her phone. Smile for the Faking Disabilities series. Sis. Karen swept in with David and Aunt Sarah in tow. Maya, we really need to address your situation. The board has discussed it. The cane, the requests, the constant complaints, it's divisive. I kept my voice level. I'm just sitting here. Karen. She raised her voice so the entire backyard could hear. Everyone, may I have your attention? The chatter died. For 3 years my daughter, resident Maya Ellis, has claimed various invisible conditions to avoid following our simple covenants. She's perfectly capable when she wants to be. We've tried compassion. We've tried tough love. But some people just refuse to accept reality. The crowd murmured. My hands tightened on the cane. 3 years of rage, pain, and meticulous documentation boiled under my skin. Then Dr. Marcus Rivera stood up, voice cutting through the summer air like a scalpel. Excuse me, Dr. Rivera said, walking toward the stage with the calm authority only a chief neurologist can wield. I'm Dr. Marcus Rivera, Chief of Neurology at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. Karen's smile froze mid-sentence. David's face went the color of old drywall. They both recognized him instantly. He'd been at their Christmas party last year. Dr. Rivera held up his tablet so the whole crowd could see. I've been Maya Ellis's treating physician for 3 years. I've listened to every flare, every MRI, every blood panel. These are her scans: spinal degeneration at L4, L5, and L5S1. Confirmed autoimmune markers. Fibromyalgia diagnosed by 3 independent specialists. She is not faking. The backyard went graveyard silent, except for the distant hum of a lawnmower someone had forgotten to turn off. Karen tried to recover. Doctor, this is a private community matter. He didn't let her finish. I've also documented 37 instances of medical interference and harassment by this board over the past 18 months. Would you like me to read them aloud? He tapped the screen. Karen Blakely, you personally discarded Maya's printed prescription summaries during a so-called fire safety inspection. David Blakely, you used your position at Northwestern to flag and deny her specialist claims, insurance fraud, and abuse of power. Justin and Melissa Blakely, you've run public social media campaigns calling her condition fake, defamation, and disability discrimination. Aunt Sarah, you've practiced medicine without a license by diagnosing Maya with Munchausen and advising the board to withhold accommodations. Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish on dry land. David collapsed into a folding chair. Melissa dropped her phone. The screen cracked loud enough for everyone to hear. Dr. Rivera turned to me. Maya, I nodded once. He continued, voice hardening. Under Illinois law and federal ADA, denying reasonable accommodations to a disabled resident while publicly undermining her diagnosis is not just rude, it's illegal. I have recordings of every board meeting where you mocked her. I have emails. I have the fines issued while knowing her medical records. I stood slowly, leaning on the cane that had become my weapon instead of a crutch. While you've all been busy measuring my grass and timing my holiday lights, I've been busy too. I pulled out my own tablet and turned it so the crowd could see the NeuroPulse homepage, my face. My title, Maya Lee Ellis, founder and CEO. NeuroPulse Medical Devices is valued at $73 million. We sell to over 300 hospitals nationwide, including Northwestern, where David signed a purchase order for 47 units last quarter. $847,000. To be exact, David made a sound like a balloon losing air. Karen's perfect tan drained to ash gray. But here's what you're really going to hate, I continued. Jennifer Park, my attorney, has been waiting 3 blocks away. She has evidence of identity theft. Karen, you forged my signature on an HOA waiver to bypass my medical variance request. David, you funneled hospital resources to slow walk my coverage while collecting your board stipend. That's fraud. And every single one of you who participated in the group chat calling me a welfare queen, those screenshots are now exhibits. The doorbell of Karen's McMansion rang. 2 uniformed officers and Jennifer in a sharp black suit stepped into the backyard. Jennifer's voice carried like a judge's gavel. I'm representing Maya Ellis in multiple civil and criminal matters against the Willow Creek HOA board. Officer Martinez is here for the allegations of fraud, harassment, and medical neglect. Karen started backing away. This is insane. You can't do this at a block party. I looked her dead in the eye. You made my illness public for 3 years. We're finishing it publicly. Jennifer handed out cease and desist packets like party favors. No further contact. No more posts. Violations mean immediate arrest. Officer Martinez stepped forward. Karen Blakely. David Blakely, you're not under arrest yet. But we need you at the station for questioning regarding identity theft, insurance fraud, and violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. The crowd that had been laughing at me minutes earlier now stepped back as if Karen carried the plague. Phones came out, not to mock, but to record the fall. Justin tried one last limp. You can't sue your own neighborhood. Jennifer smiled thinly. Watch us. I picked up my cane and started walking toward the gate. My real family waited outside. My business partner, Rachel, who understood every flare. My girlfriend, Simone, who had never once doubted me. And Dr. Rivera, who had risked his own reputation to stand up. Before I left, I turned back one last time. You taught me exactly how little I was worth to you, so I raised my price. You can't afford me anymore. The block party that was supposed to celebrate community unity ended in stunned silence, broken only by the click of handcuffs being readied. Karen's perfectly manicured lawn, still exactly 3 inches, now hosted a crime scene vibe no HOA covenant could have predicted. Neighbors who had forwarded every one of Melissa's mocking TikToks suddenly found their phones very interesting. Aunt Sarah tried to disappear into the crowd, but Dr. Rivera's wife quietly informed her that the state nursing board had already been notified about her unlicensed diagnoses. I didn't wait for apologies. I never expected them. I simply walked out with the people who had believed me when I said I hurt. Behind me, I heard Karen's voice crack for the first time in 3 years. This is a misunderstanding. We were just trying to keep standards. The officers weren't impressed. Within 24 hours, the local news ran the headline. HOA president and board face criminal charges after publicly gaslighting disabled resident. David was suspended from his hospital administrator job pending ethics review. The hospital system that had just bought nearly $1 million worth of my devices issued a terse statement about zero tolerance for abuse of power. Karen's precious newsletter printed an emergency edition that somehow never made it to mailboxes. Turns out the printer refused the job once the story broke. The financial dominoes fell faster than Karen could schedule an emergency board meeting. The HOA's liability insurance dropped them like a bad lawn. Civil suits for ADA violations and defamation poured in, not just from me, but from 3 other residents who suddenly found the courage to speak up once the fear was gone. My lawyer, Jennifer, handled every filing with the calm precision of someone who had been waiting years for this moment. Restitution for the forged documents, the denied claims, the medical harm caused by 3 years of stress on top of my conditions. The board's personal assets were on the line. Justin's Compliance Patrol TikTok account, where he had turned my limp into comedy gold, got mass reported by disability advocates. Platform banned. His part-time job at the local PR firm fired him the same day for reputational risk. Melissa's graduate program in social work. Ironic, right? Expelled her after the university learned their student had run a hate campaign against a disabled resident. Aunt Sarah received a cease and desist from the state medical board and lost her volunteer position at the community clinic. Her husband quietly filed for divorce the following week. Turns out he'd been hearing about Karen's cruelty from Dr. Rivera's wife for months and had finally had enough. Karen's McMansion, the crown jewel of Willow Creek, went on the market at a loss after the bank froze their accounts during the investigation. David's salary, their only real income, was suspended. They had been living large on HOA stipends and hospital perks that vanished overnight. Last I heard, they were renting a 2-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood they used to sneer at. The same one where the grass grows however it wants. I didn't gloat publicly. I didn't need to. The satisfaction came in the quiet moments, watching the community Facebook group implode as half the neighbors apologized to me privately and the other half tried to stay neutral and please no one. Dr. Rivera started a foundation for medical advocacy in invisible illness cases. He now sits on my company's advisory board. Neuropulse 2.0 launched with AI flare prediction. Valuation past $127 million. I still have bad days. I still use the cane. But I run a company that helps thousands of people who look fine on the outside while their bodies scream on the inside. 6 months after the block party, I haven't spoken to any of the Blakely family or the old board. Court orders ensure it. They sent letters through lawyers, flowery apologies, promises to do better, requests for reconciliation. Jennifer filed them under evidence of continued harassment. Last month, David had a minor heart scare. Extended neighbors tried the guilt trip. He's suffering too. I sent flowers. The card read, "Wishing you the same level of medical support you gave me." I didn't visit. So people call that cold. I call it boundaries. Forgiveness doesn't require reopening the door to people who spent 3 years trying to convince the world my pain was imaginary. They didn't just ignore me. They actively made my life harder while I was building something extraordinary. They stole my peace, my privacy, my reputation. When the chance came to apologize quietly, they chose public spectacle instead. I owe them nothing. I owe myself everything. My chosen family thrives. Simone and I bought a house outside any HOA, wide doors, 0 grass height requirements, and a pool for therapy that no one could deny me. Rachel and I are already prototyping Neuropulse 3.0. Dr. Rivera teaches residents how to advocate, not just treat. And every time I speak at a chronic illness conference, I tell the same truth I wish someone had told me the day I moved into Willow Creek. Your pain is real. Your documentation is your power. Build anyway. Succeed anyway. And when the people who doubted you finally see what you became without them, keep walking. The standing ovation from people holding canes, crutches, and invisible scars is the only applause I'll ever need. Sometimes I drive past Willow Creek Estates just to remind myself how far I've come. The for sale sign on Karen's old McMansion is still there. Price dropped twice. The lawn, once the pride of the neighborhood, is now patchy and 2 inches too long. Poetic justice wrapped in crabgrass. David works part-time at a big box store. His hospital career is over. Karen sells real estate in a different county, where her reputation somehow hasn't followed. Yet. Justin stocks shelves at Walgreens for $17 an hour. Melissa waitresses in Arizona. Her social work dreams as dead as the HOA's credibility. Aunt Sarah rents a studio and works retail. The extended community fractured, half-cut ties with the Blakeleys. Half tried neutrality and ended up trusted by neither side. I don't spend energy hating them. I simply don't spend energy on them at all. My life is too full. Board meetings that actually respect my schedule. Product launches that change lives. Evenings where Simone and I laugh until my ribs hurt for good reasons. Last week at the National Chronic Illness Conference, 200 people, some standing, most not, gave me a standing ovation when I showed the photo of that block party moment. Dr. Rivera rising like justice in a tie clip mic. Karen's face collapsing like her empire. I told them what I wish I had heard 3 years ago. You are not faking. You're not weak. You are surviving something they cannot see. And that makes you stronger than they will ever understand. Document everything. Build anyway. And when they finally witness what you've become without their permission, do not look back. The canes rose in salute. The room roared. That is my family now. As for the old neighborhood, I hear they're struggling to find a new president. No one wants the job anymore. Too much liability. Too many eyes watching. The covenants are still there, but enforcement is hesitant. Turns out when the queen falls, the pawns scatter. I still have fibromyalgia. I still have days when the cane is my best friend and the brain fog rolls in like Midwest thunder. But I also have a company valued north of $127 million. A partner who believes me on the worst days, and a legacy that proves disability and dominance are not mutually exclusive. Every Neuropulse unit shipped is a quiet middle finger to every Karen who ever measured my worth by how straight I could walk. Paper really does beat promises every single time. I had the documentation. They had the excuses. I wasn't hiding, I was watching. Every fine, every laugh, every dismissive post became another brick in the case that finally buried their little kingdom. If you're watching this and you're currently trapped under an HOA Karen, or any Karen who thinks your invisible pain is an inconvenience to their rules, hear me, document everything. Find her DR. Rivera. Find her Jennifer. Build in the shadows until you're ready to shine. Your success will be the revenge they never saw coming, and the satisfaction when they realize the dramatic resident they mocked now owns the future they can only watch from the sidelines is sweeter than any perfectly mowed lawn. Hit that like button if you've ever had to walk away from toxic power to save yourself. Drop your story in the comments where you're watching from. What rule your HOA try to weaponize against you? Whether you'd have done the same. And if you're still in the fight, hold on. Your pain is real. Your strength is real. And your comeback is going to be legendary. Subscribe for more HOA Karen stories where the underdog doesn't just survive, she rewrites the covenant. Because sometimes the best thing you can do when the neighborhood turns against you is succeed so loudly they can't ignore it anymore.